Welcome on a real historical detective investigation. We're going to separate fact from fiction, or, well, fact from myth, to uncover the true origins of the global oil industry. It's this wild story that literally spans millennia, jumps across continents, and features some absolutely incredible feats of human ingenuity. I mean, this is the story of how the modern world as we know it was completely reshaped. Who drilled oil first?
It seems like a completely straightforward question, doesn't it? You'd think we could just, point to a specific date on a calendar and a precise spot on a map and say, there it is. But actually, this question is highly contested. The answer is far from certain. And because oil has been the absolute central engine of the modern world, literally fueling everything from global transportation to the manufacturing of stuff we use every single day, claiming to be the very first to harness it, that is deeply tied to national pride. It's a massive matter of historical prestige.
Okay, let's dive into this. To actually solve this mystery, we first have to acknowledge a tricky little detail. The claim of being the first hinges entirely on how you define the word production. Back in ancient times, people could just dig a shallow hole or even just collect oil that was naturally seeping right to the surface of the earth. So, does that count as production, or does it only count when you've got systematic extraction, deep drilling, huge refineries, and global commercialization? Because this definition is entirely subjective, right? So you've got multiple different countries that actually have perfectly valid claims to the title, all based on totally different technological milestones. We really have to step back and look at the whole picture to understand how this massive industry was actually born.
Section 1. Ancient Chinese bamboo rigs.
To track down our very first real claimant, we have to shift our focus completely away from the 19th century Industrial Revolution. We're going to take a pretty surprising journey deep into ancient history. So picture this. Over 2,250 years ago, the ancient Chinese in the Sichuan province were already pioneering incredible drilling technology. At first, they were really just manually digging for brine, salt water, using simple hand tools. But by the early 3rd century AD, they had developed this absolutely remarkable percussive drilling method. They were using heavy iron bits attached to these long, hollow bamboo pipes and working them with a super sophisticated seesaw-like lever system to pound through solid rock. And get this, they were reaching depths of up to 240 meters. Try to wrap your head around the sheer engineering required to do that nearly 2 millennia ago. Now, while they were down there looking for salt, they kept bumping into abundant natural gas and oil, and they quickly realized this stuff was highly flammable. But they didn't just ignore it as a nuisance, they actually figured out how to ingeniously use special bamboo pipes to transport the gas and use it to fuel their salt boiling fires. Talk about early innovation. Now, what's really interesting about this next piece of history is a record from a brilliant Chinese scientist named Shen Kuo, way back in the year 1088 AD. He'd been experimenting with petroleum to make ink, but while doing so, he made this absolutely massive prediction. Nearly a full millennium ago, he astonishingly predicted that oil would become immensely popular. He literally wrote that the world's underground reserves would be tapped into inexhaustibly. He foresaw our modern global reliance on oil centuries before the first internal combustion engine was even a rough sketch on a piece of paper. It's just this profound reminder of how forward-thinking these ancient engineers and scientists really were. They were laying the absolute earliest conceptual groundwork for what would eventually become a total global necessity. Now, of course, while those ancient bamboo rigs were total engineering marvels of their time, they did lack the operational scalability you'd need for mass industrial oil extraction. But China's story didn't just end there in antiquity. Fast forward a bit, and they eventually adopted modern, fully mechanized drilling techniques in 1950. And by heavily leaning into that rapid modernization and combining it with their vast natural reserves, China scaled up incredibly fast. In fact, they became the 6th largest oil-producing country in the entire world by 2023. It's this amazing full-circle moment, right? Going all the way from ancient bamboo pipes to modern global energy dominance. Section 2. Europe's 19th century rush. All right, let's leap forward to Europe in the 19th century. This is right when the sudden discovery of kerosene and paraffin oil triggered a massive global black gold rush. All of a sudden, these fuels were incredibly useful. People needed them for heating homes and, crucially, for providing machine lubrication for the booming industrial age. So the pace of innovation just shifts into total overdrive. We're talking rapid-fire milestones happening all within a super tight 20-year span. Just look at this. In 1846, in Baku, which was part of the Russian Empire, Major Nikolai Alexeyev drilled what many experts consider the world's first real oil well, even though, it was still primarily powered by human or horse labor. Then, bam, In 1853, Poland opens a hand-powered drilling well and builds a small-scale distillery at Jaslo. Just 4 years after that, in 1857, Romania builds the Rafov systematic refinery. The technology was just absolutely exploding across the European continent. It was transforming what used to be this niche, barely used resource into a vital industrial commodity almost overnight. And you really cannot overstate the scale of this European boom. I mean, Winston Churchill later famously put it like this: "If oil is a queen, then Baku is her throne." The Russian Empire's Absheron Peninsula was an absolute powerhouse of production. It was being exploited by major entrepreneurial heavyweights like the Rothschild family and the Noble brothers. These Baku oil fields were so massive, and they were just so densely packed with derricks, that by 1908, a staggering 30% of the entire world's oil came from this one relatively small geographic region. No way, right? It entirely reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the time, and it showed the world exactly how much wealth was just sitting there, hiding beneath the ground.
And this brilliantly illustrates why Europe's claim to the origins of the modern oil industry is so incredibly strong. Countries like Poland and Romania, they weren't just extracting oil from the ground anymore, they were actually taking the lead in pioneering systematic refining. Take that Rafov refinery in Romania, for instance. That thing spanned over 4 hectares. It was operating on an industrial scale that had just never been seen before. And because of all that massive refining capacity, Bucharest actually became the very first city in the world to have its night sky illuminated by distilled crude oil lamps. I want you to just stop and think about the profound shift that was. They literally changed how human societies interacted with the night. For the first time ever, city streets could be brightly and reliably lit. That fundamentally extended the hours of commerce, it changed socializing, and it drastically improved public safety. A real game changer.
Now, for a brief but honestly incredible moment in history, back in 1857, Romania produced 275 tons of crude oil. By hitting that remarkable output, Romania actually briefly held the title of the world's absolute largest producer of petroleum. It stands today as a pretty amazing testament to how quickly a nation could rise to total global prominence simply by mastering the extraction and refinement of this powerful new resource.
Section 3. The American Oil Boom.
Of course, we can't talk about oil without talking about North America, because their rise was both swift and totally dominant. In 1853, Samuel Keir establishes America's first real oil refinery in Pittsburgh, basically figuring out how to successfully distill crude oil into a reliable illuminant. Then, just a few years later, across the border in 1858, James Miller Williams discovers oil in Canada's Oil Springs, which quickly created this bustling hub for petrochemical refining. And then came 1875, when David Beatty unearthed crude in Warren, Pennsylvania. Now, this specific discovery is huge because it catalyzed the development of the mighty Bradford oil field. And let me tell you, this field grew at such an explosive, unprecedented rate that by the 1880s, it was contributing a jaw-dropping 77% of the entire global oil supply. Just massive.
So the crucial point here is understanding exactly how this transition actually happened, right? Before 1859, like we saw over in Baku in Poland, extraction still heavily relied on grueling manual labor, human power or horsepower. It was effective, sure, but it was incredibly slow and extremely physically taxing. But then comes Edwin Drake's well in Pennsylvania in 1859, and that changes the whole shebang. Why? Because he used a steam-powered engine to drill. This one single innovation shifted the entire industry away from incidental surface collection and manual digging and thrust it directly into practical, machine-powered, drilled extraction. It was the exact moment where human muscle was finally replaced by the relentless, untiring power of steam.
Now, fun fact, Drake's well initially yielded just 25 barrels a day. That's a super modest immediate output, especially when you compare it to the massive, explosive gushers that would come along later. But the sheer volume wasn't actually what mattered here. What mattered was the undeniable proof of concept. Drake set the operational standard for machine drilling. This single event is widely celebrated as the definitive birth of the modern petroleum industry, specifically because it provided the technological blueprint. That blueprint would soon fuel millions and millions of kerosene lamps worldwide, and eventually, it would power the entire global age of the internal combustion engine. Honestly, without Drake's steam-powered breakthrough, the 20th century as we know it simply would not exist.
Section 4. A Global Human Achievement.
So as we bring our narrative arc to a close today, let's look back at where we've been. We have traveled all the way from those ingenious ancient Chinese bamboo rigs in Sichuan over to the colossal derrick-packed fields of Baku, through the brightly illuminated nighttime streets of Bucharest, and finally to the steam-powered marvels of Pennsylvania. And it begs the question, is who drilled first actually the wrong question to be asking? Because when you look at all the evidence we've covered in this explainer, it becomes incredibly clear that the history of oil isn't just a singular national victory. You can't just, pin a gold medal on one specific country and completely ignore the rest of the world. Instead, this history is a borderless, continuous testament to human progress and problem solving. From the early ingenuity of the Chinese using bamboo and iron, to the vital refining breakthroughs happening across Europe, all the way to the massive industrial scaling in North America, each culture uniquely and significantly contributed to the evolution of this vital industry over thousands of years. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this leaves you wanting to explore even more of our shared, deeply interconnected industrial history.